Well, the inside is done. Started out with 80 grit, then I went 120, 180, and then 220. And it feels pretty good. So the inside is done. However, for part of the outside, I can't use this, and I'll show you why. Well, as you can see here, this does not want to fit very well into this groove. It's too big in diameter. If it was maybe an inch in diameter, it would fit in here. But anyway, this layer right here is going to be the hardest to sand. And this is why. Here is the end grain. It's very rough. And those of you who have done a lot of woodworking, you know that side grain like this, it's quite easy to sand. But the end grain, it's really hard for some reason. Probably because it's a little bit more porous. You can sort of see it there. It's more porous. So I've used this in the past. It sort of fits in there. It's just a little bit smaller than this diameter. And all this is just bubble pack wrapped around a dowel. And what I'll do is take the sandpaper and I'll just go like this while it's turning. Anyway, got to rig up my dust collector hose somewhere so it's not choking me to death. And we'll get at it. I'm probably going to spend twice as much time on this piece right here than I am on the entire rest of it put together. This is, by the way, right here, that's the only place, and of course on the opposite side, where there is end grain. The rest of it, it was all side grain. It was quite easy to sand. And the inside is extremely smooth, even with just 220. Now, of course, I'd have gone a lot finer if I was turning a pen, but, you know, for this it's going to be good enough. Anyway, like I say, let's get at it. Well, I'm hoping now that this is going to catch most of the sawdust that's going to come off of this. By the way, if I tried to turn it the other way, which might actually be easier for sanding, it's possibly going to unscrew there on me, and there is no locking nut on this particular faceplate. So if it starts to unscrew, I could have a major disaster on my hands. So I got to keep it going in the direction where the thing is going to automatically be tightening. In other words, it's got to turn the way it's supposed to turn. Another thing is, you may have recalled me talking about the fact that I'm having a problem with my switch here. Now this would be about 2 months ago I talked about it, and what was happening is it has a tendency to turn itself off. And it doesn't have anything to do with the circuit breaker. You know, here's the circuit breaker. So it's a case of the little catch inside the switch just doesn't want to hold anymore. I've probably used it thousands of times over the last 5 years or whatever. So I go like this. I've only done this once before, so I know it does work. Okay, now that I've cheered you all up and made your day, I've done what I should have done in the first place, and I actually did think about it. But I thought, oh no, I'll be able to hold on to it with my fingers. Anyway, here we go. Take 2. You're likely wondering, why am I not just using just the pad? After all, it's the same grit, 220. Well, I tried the sandpaper just a moment earlier, and I was pushing it in with my fingers, and I was finding it was getting really hot, really fast. And I was afraid that same thing could happen with the pad. So I didn't want to accidentally melt the pad. Okay, I realize that you can't feel it, but this is the end grain on one end of that board. And here it is at the other end, and I think I've pretty well got it. I worked my way up to 220 grit there, as you saw. And yeah, I think I can just do the rest now with the electric drill. Then I better figure out what I'm going to do about the wipe-on poly. Am I going to make my own, or am I going to try and buy some? It costs about $20 a tin. That's not too bad, I guess. Well, I guess you know what we're using. About 4 hours has passed now since I did anything on this. Anyway, I guess if I want to get any of this on today, I better do a little bit more sanding here. Figure about another half an hour's work here. And I'm kind of anxious to see how this is going to look. I'm really hoping that the oak is going to darken up and that the maple is going to stay light. Now, that's my hope. Okay, got it all sanded now. Once again, started out at 80 grit and worked my way up to 220. Feels really nice and smooth. And I've got it, I don't know if you can see it there, if I can shade it, it's turning 50 to 60 RPM. And my plan is, I'm just going to sort of kind of sop it on with this disposable brush here, and then wipe the excess off with this rag. And the final coat, I'll use a lint-free rag. Anyway, let's see what it's going to look like here. I hope my head doesn't get in your way. I also want to be careful that I don't end up gluing it to the faceplate here. Now I may be removing more than I have to, but I don't want it to run. After all, this is supposed to be wipe on and wipe off. Well, I don't think that's going to run. Let's see what's going to happen here now. This is where I'm hoping there's going to be a little bit of contrast happening. Here we go. Try and work it into that end grain on that layer that I was concerned about before. Okay, I'll move the camera around the other side and we'll try and do the inside. I don't think I missed any. Now that it's sanded, I can really see where all the flaws are. I got one really bad one on the inside there. I think you possibly may have seen it yesterday. Okay. nothing squeezing out there, so I'm just going to let that run. I'm not going to stop it. Let it run for about half an hour. Then I'll stop it. And I guessed pretty close.